demoralized. And that was really unfortunate situation because we did have a little defensive letdown that at least let them get out of their end zone, and they actually kicked the field goal in that drive. That ended up being the difference of that game. We ended up losing by 5 points. We came back and scored another touchdown. And if we had really shut them down, we may have overcome their goal lines. When we faced the same team a few years later in Super Bowl 23.
Okay, so unfortunately you lose 26-21. Let's just talk about Ken Anderson, very underrated quarterback. He won MVP that year, correct?
He was the most valuable player in a tight end named Dan Ross. Dan Ross, unfortunately, has passed away, but he could catch it.
For you not to get back to the position that you was in 81. What went wrong again?
Beat us in the playoff, and we were at home, but we had a letdown. And we didn't play with that type of intensity. Bengals, and so Paul Brown and everyone knew him. He was a protege of Bill Walsh, and so he basically was a very, very cerebral head coach that really got along well with Boomer Esiason and was able to implement the no-huddle offense, which basically is still utilized and it changed the offensive framework of NFL football ever since those days.
Fast forward to the 88 season, go to the Super Bowl, and you play 49ers again. Let's go over that run to the Super Bowl. Beat the Seahawks 21-13. Talk about that win against the Seahawks.
Well, the 88 season was coming off of a horrible 4-11 strike season. And during that strike season, I had crossed the picket line, in large part because I was the NFL Man of the Year. And does an NFL Man of the Year strike against the NFL that made him a Man of the Year? Plus, I had an operation. I was the very first microfracture back from that. It wasn't even called microfracture surgery. It was called an abrasion. And I spent the whole off season without running. All I did was ride a bike. And it was a vast experiment. And so when the next season started, I didn't even know if I could play, but I was able to play. But now I was a city councilor. I had been elected to Arn Board's seat, who was an independent charter right candidate. He had gone to Harvard, and he was impressed by how I had conducted myself the year before and the fact that I was involved in so many different aspects of the Cincinnati community. So the night before, we were celebrating a birthday party in Covington, which is across the street. And there were a lot of our players, new players there, who were celebrating one of the players' wives' birthday, and this was Friday night. Well, one of the people in the bar tried to approach one of my teammates' wife, and I remember Icky Wood wasn't having it. And when he told the guy to back off, and the guy didn't back off, how? And that started this sort of rumble, rumble outside of the jungle, And I remember when management came in, they separated everybody and they kicked everyone out but the players. And so everyone said, well, Reggie, you're a city council. We're not going to go out the back door. We're going to go out the front door. We want you to lead us. And so I walked out there, and all my teammates followed me. It was like walking through the Red Sea. You're walking through, and the waves parted. All of the combatants had moved out of my way. And as I walked past them, the sea swallowed all the rest of my teammates, and there was a rumble. And so the next morning, that Saturday, we won the fight. But there were players who had, a black eye or two, a scrapes or a bruise. But, we became a team. And, whatever adversity had, infiltrated the team the year before with the strike, all of a sudden we were determined. And in the very first drive against the Arizona Cardinals at home, we had a goal line stand. And I tell you, that crowd was so loud that I had never heard that kind of clap in Riverfront Stadium. And then to end the game, to seal the victory, we had another goal line stand. And that year, we didn't lose a single game at home. Not a regular season game, not a playoff season game. Home was a special place. Everyone was yelling, who they think's going to beat them Bengals. And it worked that year. And it took us all the way to the ultimate goal. Once we got to Miami for Super Bowl 23. And one of the unique things about what happened in Miami was during the week of the game, there was a riot in overtime. And so while I was thinking that I was going to be able to focus in exclusively on playing, all of a sudden I had to put on my city council hat again and become a liaison between our police force and our protection and our organization, working with the mayor of Miami to ensure that we could minimize the impact to all the visitors who were coming to the area. So it was really a strange, unique season. But once again, that is the only season that any player in any sport has been elected to a public office while they competed for a championship.
Okay, so unfortunately you lost that Super Bowl 20-16. No, that was a tough loss.
Real tough.
Doing this thing, going down the field 92 yards. defensive wise, like obviously you got to stop them from scoring. You did a great job against the 49ers. The 49 team that wasn't as good as the 84 team because they went 15-1. They were like 10-6. You had a better record than them. And talk about this dude coming up short against them again. At that time.
Well, we were leading by 3 points with the final drive that Joe Montana had. And as he moved the ball up the field, we were able to get them into a 2nd and 20 right in their own field. And our defensive coordinator, Dick LeBeau, called a prevent defense, which was the only defense that we had in our playbook where I came off the field. And I was having the best game of my career. I mean, I was determined not to lose. I led all players on both teams with tackles. I had a sack on Joe Montana, had a pressure on Joe Montana, had a pass defense in the end zone that stifled one of their drives. And to be on the sideline for the final of that game was something that haunted me for the rest of my life. I mean, I had nightmares about it. I had nightmares that I was on the field and that I made a big play and that we did win. And, you felt the joy of victory. You felt the love from your teammates. You felt the enthusiasm from your fans. You felt the confetti. And then all of a sudden you'd wake up, realize it didn't happen, and it was a nightmare. And so it really was a tough game, to be on the sideline. It's one thing if you lose on the field and you've given everything you have and you have nothing else, no one to blame but yourself. When you're on the sideline, you're watching it. That's what makes it so horrible. And that's what made it kind of horrible for losing Super Bowl 56 too. I'm watching, and I'm reminded of what it feels like to be watching the other team continue to move the ball and there's nothing that you can do. And so it was deja vu all over again for me at Super Bowl 56. But I am very proud of how well the Bengals played this year. They exceeded everyone's expectation. Just like both Super Bowls that we played in, this team came off of a losing season and completely turned their fortunes around through their own execution and through their own self-confidence. And so let's hope that next year, this Cincinnati Bengal team will be able to do much better than how we bounced back from both our previous Super Bowls. Both Super Bowls that we played in, the next year we didn't find our way back to the playoffs. So that's one of the lessons that hopefully history will teach this team.
Okay, so away from the football field, you won the Sports Person of the Year in 1987 with other athletes like Willie Sparrow, like different people. Talk about that honor of being Sports Person of the Year for Sports Illustrated in 1987.
That was a very, very special award. It was for athletes who care. So there were a number of male and female athletes from all over the world who were recognized by then President Ronald Reagan. They invited us to the White House. He presented the awards in the Oval Office. Something pretty special that hasn't been done previously or since. And so, that was coming off of being recognized by the NFL Players Association as a Byron Rizzer White Award winner in 1985, and obviously winning what is now called the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award in 1986, to then win the Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year. It just really speaks to how dedicated I was in the city of Cincinnati. I really was involved with so many youth initiatives, beginning with the Cincinnati Speech and Hearing Center. On the very first day that I made the Cincinnati Bengals team as a rookie, I volunteered. I found in the phone book where they were and volunteered at the Cincinnati Speech and Hearing Center. So Cincinnati was a very, very special place. It was tough to leave after my career because there were a lot of opportunities there, but I was hired to be the general manager of the New York, New Jersey Knights, and I kind of thought that I would get some general manager experience and maybe come back to the Bengals as their general manager, like Ozzie Newsome did with the Cleveland Browns, and he found so much success with the Ravens. But once I built NFL Youth Education Town following Super Bowl 27, I was hired by the Disney Corporation and ended up starting the sports business here in Orlando, which became at that time Disney's Wide World of Sports, which is now known as ESPN Wide World of Sports. They were successfully able to host the NBA championships 2 years ago where the LA Lakers won. So that place will always be special, and it's one of the best jobs that I've had.
Okay, so you play, your whole career from 1976 to 1989. But you're like the last of a dying breed because this was before like free agency really exploded. You had Plan B free agency, I think in the latter part of the 80s, but it exploded in like 93. The guy players going from team to team. Talk about playing with one team, one franchise for your whole career, because that's a unique situation. Talk about that.
Well, it is an exercise in loyalty. I mean, that is one of the things that makes me loyal to Dartmouth College, because if they were there for me when Michigan, who I wanted to become a Wolverine, basically snubbed me. And so I'm very loyal. I want nothing more than for the Cincinnati Bengals to bring a Lombardi Trophy to Cincinnati. They have some of the best fans in the world. They deserve a championship. And so that's just an enduring era of competitiveness. This is the year that hopefully Joe Barrow will get the offensive line help, that he'll continue to mesh with his great array of wide receivers, that our defense will be able to continue to pressure their opponents. I tell you, the penalties that impacted our team at the end of Super Bowl 56, they were tough to endure. But that's unfortunately what happened, and hopefully it'll only make the resolve even stronger in this year's Super Bowl hopefully bound Cincinnati Bengals team.
Okay, let's get into your book. You have a book that came out a couple years ago called Resilient by Nature. What made you want to put together the book, and what message are you trying to convey to those who will buy the book?
Now, I think the message is primarily that there are lifelong lessons in overcoming adversity. And there's a consistency about overcoming adversity. And so those are some of the lessons that I talk about in the myriad of circumstances that I've endured. Where it's come into play most of all has been in my physical resilience. I've had 4 right knee replacements. I've had a 5th left knee replacement, so 5 knee replacements in all. I've overcome a stroke where I was stricken so bad that I was unable to speak. So the fact that I'm even conversing now is something that's part of what I've overcome. I've overcome an aorta dissection, which is open heart surgery. I've had at least 5 concussions, which probably means that I probably do have CTE. So part of what, the book is trying to indicate that no matter what you've overcome, there's a positive story that can be told about what lessons you have learned from the lessons that you've overcome, from the adversity that you've overcome.
Okay, I noticed in the book that Russell Wilson wrote the foreword. Talk about how that came about.
Well, Russell Wilson's father, Harrison B. Wilson III, was one of my best friends at Dartmouth College. He was a year behind me. He was also a 2-sport athlete. He was a great baseball player. I'm sure that's how Russell became a great baseball player. His father was a wide receiver. When you see Russell run, he and his father run the exact same way. they look almost exactly alike. And so while we were working on who would write forward our book, my collaborator, Jared Bell, said, Russell Wilson's the right guy. And so fortunately, Russell agreed to do the forward, and he wrote about the fact that his father, God bless him, he passed away, and how him passing away made Russell a different player. So he's had a phenomenal run for the Seattle Seahawks, became a Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year there himself, is a Super Bowl champion there. But hopefully he'll realize even greater rewards in going to Denver. I mean, I wish him nothing but best at this time in his career, and he's a very, very talented player, and he's capable of turning that franchise back into a Super Bowl champion this year.
Okay, where can they find your book, Resilient by Nature? Where can people find your book?
Yeah, you can find it on Amazon. It's also available as an audio book. Myron Willis is the person that reads the book, and certainly appreciate anyone that is interested in what lessons there are with Resilient by Nature. I talk about a number of people who I also admire in my book. You'll see artwork behind me. I'm a big fan of Ernie Barnes, who was the artist discovered by Norman Lear as the artist behind JJ and Good Times. And every Good Times show, which was the first African-American sitcom on, network TV, every single show opened up with a piece of Ernie Barnes art. And I believe that piece of art was Sugar Shack. And Sugar Shack is also on the cover of Marvin Gaye's album, which became a platinum album. So Ernie Barnes played football for 5 years in the National Football League. And one of the reasons that he retired was because he didn't want to hurt his fingers anymore. And that's one of the things I really admired about Ernie. And that's why I wrote about him in my book in one particular chapter. But there's a number of people that I do write about, people who have influenced me tremendously, including Muhammad Ali. I write about the story about how he was the inspiration for me really going out for the NFL after I went to the Hula Bowl. And during the Hula Bowl, the defensive coordinator, George Hill from Ohio State, basically treated me like I was the worst player on the roster. He didn't play me in practice. He made jokes about me. And I only played one play in the whole Hula Bowl. And I was getting ready to quit football, and I ran into Muhammad Ali at the Cleveland airport. And he's the one that really gave me a lesson on believing in yourself. You become a hero to yourself when you believe in yourself. And I'll never forget that. And there's stories like that are throughout Resilient by Nature.
That Marvin Gaye album, was that the I Want You album cover?
That's it. I Want You. That's exactly the album. You got it.
Okay. All right, man. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Great stories and great information. Thanks for coming on the show, Reggie Williams. Thank you.
I appreciate being on the Rashad Mitchell Show. Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to staying in touch with you and your great fans. All right?
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. That is Reggie Williams, a full-time player with the Cincinnati Bengals.